war, right? There's Ukrainian oligarchs, there's Russian oligarchs, there's some that you're not sure whose side they're on.
They're U.S. oligarchs.
Right. I don't, yeah, I'm not, yeah. But, you know, and I think one of Gloria's points was they stand to make a lot of more money when this is finished. They're going to be the ones who say, oh, I have a construction company that can help you rebuild your apartment in Kiev or Mariupol. And so, but, you know, and then there's going to be an awful lot of money needed. And I think I just read the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has agreed to make some, I don't know if it's a donation or a loan, I'm sorry, to Ukraine. Did anybody else see that? Came up in the last 48 hours.
Oh my goodness.
No, I missed it.
Eileen, are you raised? Yes, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, this is about Gloria. If you give me your phone number, I'll call her.
Okay, who's got Gloria's phone number? I don't know that I have Gloria's phone number. Somebody got Gloria's phone number in Tucson? Margaret?
Yes, I'm looking right now. It's 520.
Hold on, we're recording. We gotta be careful about putting something out on live stream.
Put it on chat. I'll pick it up that way. Thank you.
Can you do that, Margaret? You know how to go to the chat?
I have it right now. Let me see if it works.
Or can you send it to Eileen in an email, perhaps?
Oh, there you go. That's even safer.
Let me see. Well, how about,
Okay.
You know, you're underwater. You're bubbly in your voice.
sorry, we have had problems with the computers, and I hope they'll be fixed by this next week. But sorry for all the technical problems.
Oh dear. Do you have my email?
Okay, I just put it in the chat.
So while you work that out, I'm just going to. So I found this latest German WILPF German section statement. Okay. Right. And I've given you in the chat the link to it, but I'm going to give you kind of that opening paragraph. I'm going to put that into the chat because I thought it was an interesting summary, okay, which I'm now going to send you all. If you can all open the chat. So, you know, they remind us that according to Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, Ukraine has the right to self-defense. Okay. They say we are following the horrors of war, stand in solidarity with those affected and the millions of people who have fled. We learned painfully that once again the war could not be prevented despite the great civil society dialogue and peace initiatives in the region and the international networks and multilateral cooperation. None of that was able to stop it, okay? That's the WILPF German section, we are committed to strengthening further initiatives aimed at stopping Russian aggression and the war now, as well as supporting freedom and a feminist peace. So they, you know, so the fact that feminists have a certain approach to this, I think is important. And it's, you know, the UN 1325 approach is that point. They actually have 5 demands that they make of their own government. And I think, I don't know that we made in our statement of last March, I don't think we made demands of our own government. Do you think we should be making some demands of the US government?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Would you like to suggest some demands? Eileen?
Well, we've already been talking about them. Demand diplomacy, and not brutality to resolve conflict.
Do we want to demand that they quit sending weapons to
Yeah,
Ukraine?
spending billions of dollars on killing weapons.
I think this is where if some of us attended this Let's Talk About Ukraine on the 21st of March, organized out of International WILPF. And there was 2 women from Ukraine who spoke at that meeting. I was there. I know Ellen was there, and anybody else was there. You had, I think this is where you have a slight difference of opinion from the Ukrainian women. One who was called Nina Potarsky. We heard from her very early on last year, because she was one of the people, the women trying to bring all the peace activists together in Ukraine, and trying to say, you know, we shouldn't fight at all, you know, and we should go straight to negotiations. And she left Ukraine, and I'm not sure where she is now. And then there was another lady in the meeting. I'm forgetting her name right now, who said she almost was leaving WILPF and not becoming a member anymore because she didn't like some of the things that we've been saying. And I think she was more on the side of, you know, we should be sending weapons. We should be allowing the Ukrainians to defend themselves. So she had sensed in the international statements that we've been making, both from sections and WILPF International, that, you know, we're saying don't send any more weapons. At the same time, we say, and, you know, go get to the negotiating table and a ceasefire. But she didn't like Ellen Thomas. You were there. Am I representing this other Ukrainian voice correctly?
I'm not sure that I was where you're talking about.
There was a meeting that WILPF International called Let's Talk About Ukraine.
Oh yeah. And
I
the
remember
was saying that, and the woman was saying that she, and the Ukrainian woman was explaining why we should support. Is that what you're talking about?
There were 2 Ukrainian women. One was called Nina, and I don't remember, and maybe the other one was called Heidi or something like that. No, not Heidi. Anyway, there were 2 of them. And I would say we were, you know, that they to me were on opposite points of view. The one of them, you know, didn't like the fact that WILPF International and some of the WILPF sections, including ours, have been saying, don't send any more weapons. It just escalates things. You don't remember that, Ellen? I can try to pick up my notes here.
Well, I would just like to say on this issue that as you probably recall, Cheryl, because you responded to it, I put into the chat in that call asking about what about removing the nuclear weapons from the NATO countries, and nobody's talking about that. And I think that the only way that we can get Putin to agree to negotiate is if the United States is willing to do something substantial so that they feel less afraid. And he says that that's why he's afraid. You know, he feels under threat, and you can poo-poo it, but it is the reality, and people are dying because of it. So I think that should be at the top of our list of things that we're demanding.
Okay.
Not just saying stop sending weapons. In fact, I think that the stop sending weapons doesn't necessarily need to be even said. I think that we need to say that we want to get the nuclear weapons out of NATO countries and use that as the beginning of the negotiations.
And of course, now just recently, Putin says he's going to give put some nuclear weapons in Belarus. That's that's his response to NATO not, giving an inch on removing weapons. Thank you. Yes, I think that should go in. I'm just looking. I found my notes. I write notes.
I think what you're saying though is that nuclear weapons have to be removed from
NATO
all countries that have them. Really?
Well, the U.S. nuclear weapons have to be removed.
We're talking to Biden, yes, but include that we also realize that Putin has to remove his as well,
or not send them in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think he's got them anywhere, but yeah, not to send them.
Well, he says he's going to send them to Belarus. I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah.
So I just found my notes from this 21st of March. So the lady was called Hannah Mariolenko, and I try to encapsulate what she said. She's been reading the feminist articles about this war, and not arming Ukraine would not stop the war. Was her bottom line, that she felt that not arming Ukraine would not stop the war. And she said there's a difference between self-defense and violence. Okay, so we know the UN Charter says the country is allowed to defend itself against an aggressor, okay, which is what we have. She didn't like the idea of a ceasefire. The ceasefire was not sufficient. We need to say that the Russian troops must withdraw. Okay, so that's
if the Russian troops withdraw, then the United States has got to stop sending weapons.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Peace in Ukraine coalition, of which we've been a member since it started last March, essentially. These are the things that we have had on our demand, on our flyers and things, Russian troops withdraw and immediate ceasefire. But what she was saying was she got the sense that WILPF statements only talked about a ceasefire and didn't talk about Russian troops must withdraw. So she wanted to make sure that those two things were in any new statement.
Robin has her hand up.
Yes, Robin.
Yeah, sorry, I just had to move because of lack of battery. But what I want to say is that being at the CSW, I went to 2 events on the Ukraine with Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian National Women's Group or something. And uniformly, the talk was of victory. And I was the only person who stood up at the end and said that I thought victory was a erroneous concept, and that every war has to end in negotiations. There have to be negotiations. I made the spiel, and when I stopped, there was a random applause for me. Not much, but some at least in the audience. In other words, I think it's very hard. I think the woman that you spoke about, Cheryl, who was really trying to bring the peace forces together and then has left Ukraine, she should still be part of the team that works out a strategy for WILPF. And to what degree are we in contact with the pacifist group in Kiev, the the guy that is on Democracy Now! All the time, who I can't understand usually.
Well, I can, but anyway, so I'm not sure. Obviously, the International Advisory Board organized this 21st of March event, and they had both Nina Potarska and Hannah Marielenko on it. And so I assume that they are, staying in touch, and any statement they try to come out with will, this is what Dee Murphy was saying. She wants, maybe different points of view to be obvious in what comes out. And so if we have differences of opinion within our own committees, she would like to see both of them or any of them represented in what we forward to Dee herself. And as I say, it's not clear. She talked about having another meeting besides the program committee meeting on the 28th of March. She would like there to be another meeting just to deal with the Ukraine Russia war. And so I think out of that, I haven't seen a time and place suggested yet for that meeting, but I assume it's going to happen. I assume that she will actually, bring forth this other meeting that Ellen and I would go to, and anybody else, I suppose, who wants to. But in the meantime, we're, I appreciate everybody's, statements here. I'm trying to write some down. I see Joan trying to write some down. The whole thing's being recorded. So, hopefully we can come up with a list of things that we want to be mentioned. We don't have to have it all, in beautiful English or anything. I think just to, because that always takes extra time.
Right.
And I saw Martha,
Eileen has her hand raised.
Yeah, but I see Martha, our timekeeper, said something in the chat. What we decided with Martha was that we would add the whatever minutes I had assigned in the agenda to Nancy Price in agenda item. So consider that we've added her that section.
Yep.
Timing
Yeah,
to
Martha
that.
and I've been writing about that to each other. So we've got Eileen with her hand up. Sorry, I moved things over so I didn't see the hands. And now Robin also.
Considering the offer to do a presentation with points where you don't all agree upon, I just wondered, does everyone who's on this call right now agree with the points that have been brought up so far?
Or does anyone disagree with something, with including something, which would be a bit odd, but.
Right. Yeah, I don't know where Dee, in her mind, has this impression that there's a wide range of opinions, that she wants all of them to somehow come out when we forward our US section input. And so that's the impression I have, that she has this impression. Anyway.
So could we go
Robin
over?
and Margaret have their hands up.
Could we go over the points that have been made that we might present at the end of when everybody has talked? Can we maybe go over the points again?
Yeah. Robin and Margaret, did you have things that you want to say before we would do what Ellen's suggesting?
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed some of the discussion, but I would just like to say that when we talk about negotiations, that doesn't necessarily mean, the United States, Russia, Ukraine on a state level, but rather lower level negotiations. Like OSCA. I recently viewed this long tape from a guy who was part of the Minsk agreement, and it was very sort of dismal, actually, his perspective, but that smaller efforts at negotiations are possible and are happening now and should be encouraged. I'm just suggesting that be part of our statement. I'll take my hand down.
They're called track 2. There's this thing called track 2, which I've not really fully understood, but it's that you have people like Joseph Gerson, who we see, who has this common security organization. And you have people who, you know, used to work for the State Department, who somehow or other managed to talk to equivalent people in Russia. And so that there are, yes, but but making a point that the lower level people should keep talking also, I think, Robin, is a good point. Yeah.
Margaret.
Margaret, you're muted.
It's okay. I know I sound bubbly. Am I still sounding bubbly?
A little bit.
Oh, okay. So I'll try to be as clear as I can. All the way through this, I've been wondering about the role of the UN peacekeeping force. I didn't hear about that very much at the beginning of this conflict, and I haven't really heard about it much, in fact, at all. Since then, what role, who are they, and can we call upon them, and why shouldn't we, and why haven't we, and where do we go from here with them, the UN peacekeeping force?
I think you're talking about UN peacekeeping forces.
Yes, yes.
And are you saying that? What would you like us to say about that in anything?
I haven't heard anything about them since the beginning of this conflict. And I wondered why I haven't, and I was wondering if you had any questions, and if we should, well, I think we should, about this. What is their role? What is that role in all of this, and what should we ask them to do?
Well, okay. I'm still having a hard time understanding you.
Yeah.
Are you? So they have not sent any UN peacekeeping people yet.
Right. And why not?
And why not? Okay.
Yeah.
I think the UN Security Council, if you go back to Madeleine Rees's statement of 28th of January last year, which is one of the ones I pointed you towards, she castigates the UN Security Council and says, you know, they're the worst warmongers. And so expecting the UN Security Council to do anything to stop this is useless, is essentially, I think, paraphrasing her statement. And she says the General Assembly, if the UN Security Council can't get it together to get something to happen, then the UN General Assembly is the one that needs to be stepping up, and they've tried to step up. They've had these votes, you know, where 145 countries say this is an awful war and it should be stopped, you know, and but nothing seems to come out of those votes. So
should we mention that this is the state of affairs right now? Should we mention that this is the state of affairs right now, and why is it going to continue that way?
There's a current state of affairs with regard to the UN not being useful, not doing anything.
Yes, and
we don't.
How can we change that?
How can we change it? Okay, all right. Yes. I will. Okay, so yes, I mean, this was the purpose of the UN, right? It was set up to keep the peace, and they don't seem to be managing it. I mean, it has been suggested that Russia be thrown out of the Security Council because of its aggression here, and completely not following the rules of the UN and invading a sovereign country, etc., etc. So these are, you know, lots of ideas out there about how things might proceed.
Well, we have Gloria here to ask, we can now ask her about the oligarchs.
Right. Well, have you had a correspondence with Gloria? Have you had a correspondence with Dee? Do you know what it is she wants you to talk about? Yes. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't get a login. I don't know. As you know, I'm going through changing of email and I never got a login. So that was part of the reason I was late. I also had a phone call, but the last 15 minutes I've been trying to get in. Well, Dee and I discussed what she was concerned about, which was talking about those people, the wealthy ones in those two countries, who are like families in the sense of Al Capone. And because this is not known, it makes it very hard to make a case as to why we shouldn't follow the white horse as opposed to the black horse. But the horses are both very gray. And the way to know that is to look at the PowerPoint. That's not Peter Rabbit. And I am not going to go on the record. I am not going to give this talk to women I don't know. I am not going to give that information out to the women of international wealth. Why? Because they go after you. There are people who are being killed in other countries who are being hunted down, you know, like in the Mideast, like these people, you know, that tell how it is. They get hunted down. You don't have to be in the U place. You can be right in Arizona, and there's a big congregation of people from that country. And they're activists as nationalists of that country. So it's very difficult to get that word out. And when one time I gave a talk to one of the WILPF committees, and they recorded it and they instantly put it up on YouTube. I made them take it down and delete my part. The reason you don't have Amy Goodman talking about it is probably the same reason. They go after people or they sue them at the very least, because the deep pockets man who's behind, I'll call him Z-Man. Do we all know who Z-Man is I'm referring to? Raise your hand if you don't know who Z-Man is.
I mean, Zelensky?
Yeah, but we're not going to keep mentioning because bots are out there. Anyway, so the man who's backing him, whose name begins with K, has unlimited money. He stole all the money out of their central bank in that country before he backed Z-Man. And all you have to do is get on the Dropbox, go to my PowerPoint, which took, I don't know, 100 hours to put together, and you will have that information. But I personally don't want to be put on YouTube ever cycling around where bots can find me. Now, do you all understand why this is not a good idea? It's a lot like narking on Big Al.
Yeah. Al Capone, Big Al, did you mean?
I mean, we all know who Big Al is because I'm from Chicago. Well, basically, the people from the R country, there's the U country and the R country. The people from the U country might be Big Al's group. The other ones are Bugs Moran from the north side. And they used to cross lines. They used to have children who intermarried. They all went to the Moscow State University for technology and economics, both sides. So all of this separating them out and saying that this is the good group and that they won't misplace our money. That one party that Z-Man created, named after that sitcom that he was on, that's the name of their political party, has unlimited access to funding that we are, funds that we are funneling in. And it's already going through like a sieve, but we're not allowed to look into that because we are not allowed to know anything about what's happening. We just have to not question what's going on. That is why it appears to be such a, very clear cut. They crossed some line and now they're terrible. And it's basically, I think part of it, Cheryl and everybody, is communications. Who controls the means of communications? Well, whoever does can make anyone in the world, the worst people in the world, because if you control the means of communications, none of the other bad things that our own proxy group are doing will ever come out. And I think that some of this stuff needs to come out, like the hits that have been going on of people. There have been murders, there have been assassinations. I told Dee about the one woman who was the anti-corruption replacement for the backer of Z-Man, whose name begins with K. I mean, you all have access to that, and if you don't, I'll give it to you, and you can fill in the blanks. It's slides 16 through 22, everyone, on my PowerPoint. Memorize that, slide 16 through 22.
Gloria, I
don't want to talk about
dilemma. I understand your dilemma. How do you think we could handle this then?
Well, I think we're going to have to work on that one, because let me finish my anecdote. Not only did the K-man get outed by this woman that he stole all the money in the central bank of you country, he fled to Cyprus. She outed him. He can't come to the US. He can't go to the UK. He can't. He's under trial because he stole $5 billion. And that's partially what funded the Z-Man. That woman who did that had her house torched. She fled for asylum to London, and she was hit by a car in London. Are you following this? By the man who backed the current leader of that country. And you can find this, it's all in my PowerPoint. And that's what, she wasn't killed, by the way, she only had her leg broken. But with things like that going on, and there are bots that collect, frequent mentions of names and things out on the internet, one does need to be circumspect. I put it where you can all get that information. We will have to think how we can do that. It was not wise of the one person who was rather naive, who put my talk where I was just openly mentioning all their names and everything. And there it was on YouTube. I turned on my TV and it was on YouTube. And I pestered her for the rest of that day to get the person who is the IT woman to delete it all. And I don't know who that was. Was that you, Ellen? Somebody, it was one of the people that works in WILPF, and she deleted my part of that presentation.
Yes, it was me.
Okay.
You need to tell me.
Yeah. So this is important. You have to be careful. You can get the information out. I have done much more than anybody else to get all this information in one place where it's accessible. You can find out the name of the woman who fled for asylum. You can find out the name of the man who took all that money, and you can see the cases which are online on the Justice Department, why that man cannot come to the US or the UK, the one that backed K-Man into his leadership position. These are things that ought to be out there, but yet it's very risky. It's like outing Big Al.
So
this is not what women in our group are used to dealing with.
So perhaps the one thing that needs to happen in our input is some reference to the complexity and the overwhelmingness of what you're talking about.
Right.
Anyway, you have had a conversation with Dee Murphy now, and you've tried to explain
the same things I'm telling you, that you can get those women in Geneva or wherever they are, they can also have access to that PowerPoint. Do not expect me to give a long, and then you'll record it and it will be on YouTube, naming names and,
So, all right. But what is it? I'm trying to understand. What is it we don't like about what you've described? Are we saying these private people should not be allowed to bankroll other people?
The private person bankrolled the militias. He bankrolled the Nazi militias with the Nazi insignias. Same guy.
Okay. So
same guy. He also has an office where he had sharks and he would feed them raw meat to intimidate interrogation people that he was interrogating, aside from anything else he was doing.
So is this allowing, I'm trying to get to the heart of the matter here so we can, say what it is we don't like without.
Well, they're not a legitimate government. They're actually mobs. Right. And when we gave an award to a student in about 2009 or earlier than that. He was a boy from the U country. I'll keep referring it to that. I'm sure you know which one I mean. And the mother came up to me. This was in our Balkan Peace Support group when that war had wound down and we were giving awards to other country people. He was from Kiev or somewhere. And his mother came up and she said, I'm so glad that Peter, whatever his name is, got this award, which will help him in college, because his brother was killed. His elder brother was killed by the gangsters there. Everything in his country is controlled by gangs and mob ties. And that's when I began to do this research. So thinking of them as any kind of a movement of the people, that country doesn't have an independent judiciary.
I had an idea, Gloria. Would you consider it, please?
Yes.
Demand that our leaders not follow the wishes of those who are benefiting financially from war and weapons, and then not be capitalized.
Right.
Expand off that.
And also audit what we're sending, you know, in even what we call humanitarian aid, make sure it's getting to anybody. Because there's been a couple already exposés. I try to follow them if they come out. There's been a couple exposés of that party that's named after the sitcom that controls their parliament and the people that are overseeing the dispersal of funds that we are sending. And they've already had a couple trials because they're siphoning it off.
And audit our where our weapons are going.
And humanitarian aid, even worse, you know, that's
there's money. There is actually money, just I believe straightforward money is flowing.
Okay, that works for me.
Yeah, and so see, as that surfaces, people will clear some of the fog that these are all white and all perfect and good. What's happening is never like that in any war. And you can find it's all scattered in bits and pieces, but you can always check, use keywords like corruption, the name of that country, American aid, and see what pops up. And just on an ongoing basis, whenever you have spare time, check, and there may be a story. Because there is absolutely no encouragement to do any kind of accounting. And that country was the worst in Europe. It was the most corrupt.
Yes. Yeah,
it's
it is
well known.
Right. There's a corruption index that some other organization.
It's in my PowerPoint. I compare Russia's index and that other country.
Yeah, so they
I
are
have two slides, one of them and one of Russia. And
yeah, they're pretty high up.
Transparency International.
So, Gloria, you mentioned being in touch with Dee. You have given her most of this information, and
I just made her access to the Dropbox, the PowerPoint, and I told her which slides deal specifically with the backer of K-Man. And you know,
so what
a lot of times people will see it's 40 slides, you know, where do I look? And I said 16.
So what Eileen has suggested is some wording that indicates that we are aware of what you're talking about, and that we expect that it would be included, but it's not the only source of information about what you've been included. You've also given information to Dee.
Yeah,
she asked for it from us as well.
It's not simply one or two sources. There are about 100 links in that PowerPoint. Well, maybe not 100, but many links to reputable.
So we also know that Putin has Russian oligarchs.
And they're covered in my PowerPoint too, and I covered the families of them.
Right.
So you know, they're got major families. I've got about 8 or 10 slides of 8 different families, and you can see how Tweedledee, you know, from Alice in Wonderland, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, we got them right there.
So, can we conclude that if these oligarchs weren't meddling and using money from both sides in the war, would the war finish earlier? I'm trying to think, what is it we're going to complain about?
Because what they're defending is their turf, and it isn't the national turf the way it's put out to the people. It's their holdings. The one in the eastern half, you know, the rebel part, used to own the steel mill, the iron mine, Donetsk Stadium.
Coal.
And he owned everything that was, and I think that's the part that this kid lived in where his brother was killed. He only inherited all of that because his mentor was blown up in the stadium. And then he inherited all of that. He was the wealthiest oligarch in all of the U country.
Right. So if
after he blew up his mentor. So just so
if we, so I'm trying to, you know, get down to some kind of kernel of
well, we're all getting it as
demands.
nationalism and international boundaries. What's really going on is crime syndicates and their holdings, and they are trying desperately to hold on to their holdings. And the Dnipropetrovsk, I shouldn't even say that whole name, but that's where the K-man is from. And they own a certain kind of, I think he's in energy, but he's in communications. He owns the international airport of the U country, is owned by that guy, and multiple TV stations, and he controls the means of communications.
Okay, so
and under that, you know, it's very difficult to say one is worse than the other, because one is biasing it entirely to an official version that favors the R country. The other one is biasing it to an official version that favors the U country. And when there are atrocities done, the R country will tell all of the ones on the U country. The U country, who has this oligarch who controls all the TV, will tell all the ones that were done by the R country. And it's all to keep their empires, whether they be energy, and I tell you which the oligarchs are that control the pipelines, you know.
So what you're saying is, because these people exist, and because of their money and their influence and their power, they're making the war worse than it would be. Yes. And maybe they're extending it happening. I'm trying to come down to what can we complain about.
Yes, another humanitarian concern is they would not spit on the poor people of Ukraine. I have a lot of sympathy for them, like the people that were holed up in that Mariupol. Oh, I said the name of the country. Anyway, forget the Mariupol steel mill. But those people would not invite, not only would they not invite them to dinner, they would not spit on them. There is such a class gulf and such a lack of caring. And those people live on such a pittance in that country that unless you can expose some of this, it will seem like there's this one happy group of nationals from that place. And all the way up and down the social scale, they're totally homogenous and they get along and they care about each other. Well, that's out of Peter Cottontail, because it's a terrible place. And the way that women are farming their bodies because there's no money, it's the biggest surrogate baby farm country in the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Bill,
I have the name of that guy, that oligarch that runs that racket too. He's in my PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
These are people who are so oppressed, and it isn't like over there, those bad people from that other country. They are just so oppressed in their own country. I've known some people who are writers, young men that I met through ResearchGate, and they write science fiction. And one guy said he's so poor there in, I forget which town in Ukraine, all he ever got to eat mostly was ramen noodles. And he was almost a PhD in physics, and he was very depressed.
Okay.
This is before the war.
All right. So have we? Okay. Did the rest of you see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to extract from what Gloria is telling us what we would put in our input to the statement, which is
right.
There's these awful people that have this power that's behind the throne, so to speak.
Precisely.
And if and they should be stopped from doing that, because why should they be stopped from doing that? Because what they're doing is
not for the good
is it prolonging
the
war?
bulk of people. It's not for the people. It's for themselves.
Right. And so, but are they also prolonging the war? Are they making it worse than if they didn't exist? That I can try to.
Or if they didn't have total control of the judiciary, which they do, and there is no independent justice in that country. Yeah, they'll keep it going till they can get the max resources, and
Right.
enlarge their
Money.
share. And of course, yes, the R people in the other country are doing the same thing.
Same thing, right? Because what we said before you came on was, this conflict will end some point, and there will be a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done in Ukraine when the conflict ends. And who's got the companies that's going to say, oh yes, I'm ready, I'll help you.
Oh, it's all they're like this, waiting for even more money for that reconstruction.
Okay, so I'm hoping that what Gloria just told us and what I've been trying to frame it, that we can come up with some statement included in our, we have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different points that we would like to see. Right, Joan? You've been taking notes. I've been taking notes.
Yeah. So what the plan now, you've been making notes, and are you going to send what you come up with to all of us, or do you want volunteers of a few people to whom you would send it?
McGregor, who isn't on at the moment, but she promised that she would listen to the recording and try to extract some notes that would be turned in minutes. But I also said this discussion is very important, so we need that to happen sooner than later. And I'll be writing to her and say, just concentrate on this bit. But
that first.
Yes, first. If Joan, if you've been writing things down, send them to disarmchair@wilpf.org, which is Ellen and me, and we will, in the beginning, try to condense them into
I've just been making notes of what people were saying, and it's too much to try to send to you. You've been making notes of what fits with a position or to share.
Right. It's just this section on 4B is what
that's all I've been writing.
Right,
so
right,
if you want to send what you have to me, I can send you if there's something else that I have, rather than you waiting to see all this many comments. So is there anything that anybody just has to say on this subject before we move on? In which case we will.
Yes, please read my last chat.
Oh,
thank you.
Okay. Can everybody see the chat, or do we need to read it out loud?
I wrote out an audit where aid and weapons are going, which was something that Gloria added. There has to be consideration of the majority of Ukrainians, not the wealthy who want to get richer.
Right. Okay.
And a reference to
we'll try to.
And a reference to how to get to Gloria's information.
Well, we don't want Gloria in any way pinpointed, and to get that information might go back to her. I'd like to see you around a lot longer, Gloria.
Thank you.
Okay, I got the impression that Gloria, that you had set something up that you felt was okay for people to access.
Who knows what's okay, but it's more okay than being visible on somebody's YouTube using all their names,
So Gloria told us about this months ago, and she set up a Dropbox, and where she put her slideshow, and I'm sure I can, with some difficulty, I'll find that. But Gloria, if you'd like to tell me, to tell Disarm Chair at wilpf.org, remind us where this Dropbox is, please. So I don't have to.
I guess what you should do is just write to me, and then I add, here's how it works. I add your name as having access. The name
I think
of the PowerPoint is called That's Not Peter Cottontail.
I think I do have it. I have access.
But other people would have to do that in order to see it.
Yeah, and Gloria, she doesn't have it. She doesn't have the access information available, right?
But what I'm telling you is, in order to get access,
she has access already.
You write to me.
Right. I just don't remember the URL.
The rest of you.
Okay.
Oh, wait, this is my old address. Wait a minute.
I know you've got a new address, and is your Dropbox linked to your new address now?
Yes, it's all
Yes.
corrected.
All right, we'll sort that out. We'll sort that out.
Gmail.
Okay, so I think we're ready to go on to the next item on the agenda, which I've been looking at, and it says that Martha and Cheryl have
We don't-
5 minutes worth
Yeah.
on this, and I
We
think
don't-
it has a lot of information right there. and
Yeah,
it's
you don't.
not
We don't
until
need to
April.
say anything. We
Excellent,
don't-
that's what I thought.
Right.
It's wonderful.
Martha is. The thing is that
Already.
it
Check.
will be cost money, and Martha's organization will be providing the money that enables us to see this film. And we want a big audience, not just WILPF people. We want you to invite your friends and family. So we want you to
Great.
send that registration link to
There you
them.
go. Which
Martha.
is the last part of the item that's listed
Yeah.
in the agenda. Great.
I just had understanding that there was going to be something designed to have somebody who's registering see what they're registering for. Right now, it just gives a template for that evening that's usually there for
Right. So
completely
the
nondescript.
E-News, I just am about to submit an article to E-News that tells people about what the film's about, and it's on my list of things to do. So Ellen, how is it you have to tell Zoom some words you want to come up when somebody registers, right? So Ellen and I need to fathom out some words to describe it. And I'll use this short article I've just going to send to Wendy McDowell, our E-News editor, who's just had COVID. So she, thank goodness, extended the deadline for E-News articles till tomorrow. So I'm trying to, get that. And Ellen and I agreed on the article, but now the other thing we need to do is to make sure that when you register, you get some more information, right, about the film.
Great.
I would hope that once somebody had actually registered, they were kind of committed to it.
So
anyway.
And it's my understanding that you're not going to be there, but Ellen and Diane are definitely going to be part of the program. Is that correct?
Yes, I will be actually on a plane coming back from Minneapolis. I will be in a TSA queue. I will be on a plane at exactly the same time. So I will not be there. If I'm in a hotel room, I will be there, but I won't be in a hotel room. I'll be on the plane. I'll be in the TSA queues. And so I'm
Okay.
hoping Diane and Ellen will help with the discussion. Vicky, the director, is going to send us the recording that we'll use, because she doesn't want to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning in England. So yes.
So Diane and Ellen, is that still good with you? Are you both going to do the tech and the help with the questions? Is that correct?
Yes,
They might not even be there.
I'll be the tech person.
Ellen's going to be doing the tech. Diana, you're going to be there on the 19th. Are you frozen? She looks like she's frozen.
So Cheryl, whatever you send out, is there going to be direct links to the meeting that people can click on?
The registration, you see that thing in the agenda? Into 4C, registration.
Yeah.
Register. Yeah, that is the registration that will give people the link to come to at 7:45
Okay.
EDT.
Got it. Thanks.
And then Ellen Thomas will have been sent the link to the Vimeo that she will play during the webinar on Zoom. So we can run a Vimeo film on Zoom, and anybody who's got to the meeting by then will see it on their screen at home.
Okay. And you got you received the PR information from the
Yes.
director herself.
Right,
Producer.
that's
Okay.
what I'm using in the E-News. You'll see one of her
Got it.
advertising pictures and some of the reviews, because this
Got
is
it. Thank
good
you.
reviews. Yeah. So we're trying to do it. Okay. All right. So we can go on to 5 now, I reckon, Joan.
Yes, that's, well, I was just looking over these things here. Okay, so as you see, number 5, in the red, it explains that we're not going over all of the different subjects and campaigns that we're working on, but just the ones that are listed, and a total of 35 minutes. But if we can make it less, that would be good, because we had this good, long, important discussion that was somewhat more than even the combined items that we were discussing. So A, for current campaigns, continue to press for disarmament.
So
And
McGregor,
it says McGregor will report that she's not here.
yeah, she's not here, but she did write to me and Ellen about talking to other people outside WILPF that live in the area, that near the Vandenberg Air Force Base. And she's trying to get a group together who will respond when they get word of a launch, to have a press conference and things like that. So,
Yeah.
she's been doing this kind of thing for a long time. And so
Right.
she's now widening her helping people.
Right. So getting access to information, to being able to communicate to people who live somewhat nearby is
Right.
an important thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we ready to go on to the next item, which is
Yeah, the golden rule.
5A2? Aye.
Yeah. So Diane's already mentioned some things about the golden rule,
Right.
but Ellen and Diane can tell us. On Wilf Smart, I saw a lovely flyer with a picture of the US, and it showed you where it was going to go and what meetings were going to happen. So Diane, do you just want to briefly tell us it's all under control? No, Diane's disappeared now. Ellen?
For some reason, I can't share screen. I was going to show the information about what was happening in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area. It's on WILP Smart if you do Facebook. Yeah. And I can put something in the chat. Yeah. But they've got some really good stuff going on. Here, let me read it to you.
And in several places around the area.
Yeah. On the 2nd, which is next Sunday, next Sunday. There's going to be a potluck picnic with Veterans for Peace and the crew of the Golden Rule in Alexandria. That's in the afternoon. In the evening, meet and greet at Busboys and Poets in downtown. And also there's open boat events. You're invited to come aboard the Golden Rule and talk with the crew at the DC Wharf in Alexandria from April 3rd to 6th. And in DC, April 8th to 14th. And there's the mayor's on April 4th, there's a mayor's proclamation of Golden Rule Days in Alexandria. On the 5th, the Friends Meeting of Washington welcomes the Golden Rule. On the 10th, hear the Golden Rule crew's story of their creative resistance and discuss the integration of nuclear and environmental and social justice activism at the outrage, whatever that is. And then on the 13th at the public library. On the 16th, All Souls Unitarian Church. And then on the 17th, they go up to Baltimore.
So everybody's got the idea now, and there's a wonderful flyer that has some illustration and short information, pretty clear and different. It's very eye-catching. It's not just a list.
And if you go to VFP Golden Rule Project, there's a schedule that's linked to it that you can see where they're going, and it keeps being updated as they move along.
So in all of this, when are we going to get some congressional representatives to go down and stand on the boat?
I don't know.
because I thought that was one of the big deals, was to
Right.
go to DC so that we get congressional representatives, maybe.
There's going to be a lobbying. They're going to have a lobbying day. for the
Okay,
vote
okay.
rule. And I don't know. I think they're still working on trying to get somebody to go to the vote.
Because we thought we'd maybe get Ms. Norton over there,
No,
right?
she won't. She's not going.
She's not going. She said so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even to just to stand next to it.
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Okay. So it's
Thank you. Well, it sounds like an amazing series of events. Thank you.
And that's not the end of their trip. So we'll hear more in the future about the next places they're going. So it's great. Are we ready to go to item 4?
We've done 4. Gloria's done.
Oh, that was Gloria. I'm sorry.
That was Gloria.
Right,
Yeah.
right, great. Okay. And now we have Eileen is here. Item 5, report on laws.
If there's anything new, it has to be new, please, Eileen, from since last time.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I've been bringing up new things every time. Why do you keep on saying that? I have nothing at all this time, so pass me over.
Thank you.
You're doing a lot, but nothing new. Great. Okay, so that brings us to 6, which is treaties. And
What's
that is about crossings and of the DMZ in Korea. And that has my name on it. And so what I want to say is that the 70th anniversary of the armistice agreement in Korea is in July. So I think that if people have not already seen the crossings video, I would just like to really recommend it. There are various sources here in the agenda, and I think it would be really helpful for you to watch it because it's a much more complex and thorough coverage than what I had heard in the past, at least. And then what we can do in both by email and also at the next meeting, we can talk about what people are doing to make arrangements to show it. And I wanted to see if Disarm could sponsor a showing of the video crossings, and that could be done before the anniversary time, which is in July, or it could be done around the time of the anniversary.
Okay, well,
So I don't think we need to do anything at this meeting about this other than be sure that people saw it in the agenda. And I really recommend it's a very, very well done, and it's very gives a lot of information about what happened when they were there.
So this crossing of the women between North and South Korea across the the no-go area between the two countries. It happened some years ago, and I've seen a film about it. Is this an old film they're coming out, or is this a new film? Because
no, it's not a new one. And if you recall that it had a lot, most of the film is about the time when they were in North Korea and the various situations and the problems and sorting things out and and then they finally got to actually do the crossing.
So it is the movie I probably saw 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yes.
Right.
Oh,
yeah. So this
is the one with Code Pink.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Gloria Steinem is your famous person. Exactly. Gloria Steinem.
Yep, she was in it too. Yeah.
But there is some WILPF people.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
the reason it's coming up now is because of the 70th anniversary of the armistice.
Right. And so So those organizations, Korea Peace Now and Women Crossing the Korea Peace Now was essentially that came out of WILPF's initial efforts on the issue of North and South Korea. And so they've become like a separate organization, but we should continue, and I'm on their email list. So you could go to that website and subscribe. I'm sure they have a newsletter if you want to keep in touch with what's going on. And, you know, the use of anniversaries is a good ploy. We've done that around Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? To bring attention to the fact that it's still only an armistice. It's not a treaty. It's you know, and just looking at what the head of North Korea is doing, you know, he's, you know, in his mind, he's still at war, I think is what you might say about him.
Yeah.
Okay, Joan, okay, so we're up to Nancy now, but we did talk a lot, Nancy, about depleted uranium. Are you there? Is Nancy?
Yes, I'm here.
Used and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
used some of the 10 minutes.
Do you
for
feel
that
do you feel
discussion.
we've covered what you wanted to say enough?
She's not muted, but she's sort of frozen.
Of land.
Oh no, there
And-
she is.
There she is.
Hello? Yes, me?
Yes,
Yeah, well,
have we
yeah,
discussed
the
it
reason-
sufficient?
Yeah, well, I have been having a lot of internet access issues, so I decided to just.
No, you keep freezing. Turn off your video, that'll help.
We like seeing you, but yeah, I guess the basic question is yes or no. Do you feel
we
that
really,
we still need to
Excuse me?
talk about more?
excuse me?
Do we need to talk about this more, or did we cover what you wanted to cover in the discussion about Ukraine, etc. earlier?
Well, I do, yes, I think we covered a lot, but I do think there needs to be emphasis on not just he.
Nope.
You're freezing again. Why don't you do what Cheryl suggested?
People
Shut
and
off your
children
video, Nancy.
with these cancers and diseases and whatnot.
We
Shut off
missed
my
you.
video.
We did not hear you.
Yeah, Nancy, we think that you need to go to your lower left of your screen and stop the video.
I just did.
There you go.
Only.
Great.
Okay, so now try speaking to us, Nancy.
Of course, we can't tell.
Also emphasize and young children, and particularly.
You're coming in and out again, Nancy. It's a problem. Your write-ups were excellent. The ones you sent for the links were excellent. It covered the children and the women being affected. It got me going when we were doing that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you.
So in there is a sketch, Norway. All right, so Norway, very close to Russia and what have you, has a statement that I gave you a link to there. That so is what I've forgotten now. Okay, could you? It's the bottom of the first page of the Word document I sent you all. Peace talks now for preventing spreading weapons with depleted uranium and nuclear weapons. And so maybe we could take some of those Norway statements. They, of course, want us to make a statement just about that. But I think we have enough trying to feed things into the IAB process that D's ask us for. But we could use their statements in what we forward to D. Okay.
And Gloria just sent in a chat to pay attention, but that's not Nancy's stuff.
Oh, there's atrocities on both sides. Yes. Okay. I'm going to keep saving the chat because there's good stuff in there.
Right.
Okay.
Now, Gloria has her hand up. Did you want to say something or just to draw our attention to the chat?
Just briefly, Also in this, we're writing an essay, Matthias Richard and I, about one-sided rape narratives as used as war propaganda. And we're
Yeah.
going back over, until First World War. And one of the things that's come out is that people who were in asylums and prison for sexual crimes have been taken into not only that Wagner group of the Russians, but also President Z-Man, as I call him, has allowed them to go into the Ukrainian military. So you can count on that there are going to be rapes and abuses on both sides.
Thank you. Nancy, you have your hand up and.
Yes, I would just like to briefly say that in 1996, there was a young man who was stationed with the Army in Arizona, where the what do you call it? Anyway, there was a small development near the right next to the base,
Which
or the
day?
the firing range, and people were getting sick in this small development with cancers and other diseases. And so he did a lot of research, got a lot of materials together, and he was driving to meet a reporter with these materials when he was driven off the road, like Karen Silkwood, and survived being, driven off the road. That is, there was a collision and he drove off the road in this accident, but he survived and he was able to share his materials. And that was one of the first occasions when the use of depleted uranium was then obviously being, tested in firing ranges. And the evidence that it was harmful to health was being sort of unveiled.
Okay, so that wasn't in the document you sent me. What year about would have this been?
96, she said.
1996. Okay.
And I'm sorry, he was run off the road because he wanted to divulge this information?
Probably.
But I was attending.
Please clarify, Nancy.
Pardon me?
Why was he pushed off the road?
Well, because somebody knew that he had these materials, that he'd been investigating what was happening at.
Clarifying,
And he was on his way to share them.
Yeah, it was implied. I just wanted to hear it straightforwardly.
Okay. All right. I think.
Okay. Is there anything else on this item we want to deal with right now, as opposed to between now and the next meeting or at the next meeting?
Is the dog for Ukraine or against Ukraine war?
I think it's Ellen's.
Give you that evidence.
Oh, the dog. Yes.
Ellen's dog is
Okay.
probably wanting to go outside.
He wants to go out. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, that was good lightening it up. And Odile is not here. Does anyone else have something from?
Nancy has her hand raised again.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Nancy, did you still want to talk, or was that from before, perhaps? Okay. Yeah, her hand shows up more when she turns off the video. So she probably had that up before. And guess what? We're now to the famous Treasurer's Report, where Ellen is muted, and we don't know whether she's going to say it's just the same as it was before, or.
Well, it is the same as it was before, but I do have a question, and that is, there's a possibility that I might go to DC for Alliance for Nuclear Accountability DC Days to film what they have to say and get that up on YouTube. And I would like permission to get reimbursed for my travel.
Great.
Okay. So several $100s. Is that what you're after?
And also we do make a donation to ANA, but do you have to pay to go, or is that covering your admission to the time there?
Yeah, I was hoping that maybe because I'm filming and I'm not going to stay for the whole thing, I'm just going to go to film that day because I got to get back and get to work. I'll be taking some time off, but
Which day would you be filming?
on Sunday, the 23rd.
Which is the kind of the training day?
Yeah, that's the training day. Yeah, that's when they're telling us what's going on in this and
Great.
So.
Well, I think we can.
We have the money.
Yeah.
And if there's, I know that Martha was planning on going, and I'm wondering if she has any needs. And also McGregor's been very active, actively talking about stuff that's going on, and she's not on, so I can't ask her, but I was wondering if because we said that we were gonna earmark $300 for McGregor for the Vandenberg stuff.
Right.
So
Yes, she has not in what she's written to you and me. It doesn't seem like she needs money for that yet. It's
Okay.
just she's not.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Remind us of when it is.
Well, we don't know.
No, the
Oh.
23rd. I think Joan means the ANA meeting.
The ANA, right.
Oh yeah, the ANA meeting is from the 23rd to the 26th of April.
Yeah.
I think yes.
And the 24th, 25th, and 26th are the lobbying days. And I probably will stay for Monday, the 24th. And we can talk about, at the next meeting, we can talk about who I should visit.
Great.
Then maybe we'll have a bill number by then. I certainly hope so.
Good.
Bill for Norton.
For
Norton's
Norton.
bill.
Yeah.
Otherwise known as Ellen's bill. Anyway, okay, so you need us to, do you want to make the motion so that it says what you want it to say?
I move that I be reimbursed for my vehicle expenses for the trip to DC. I'll pay for anything else that comes up. Well,
Because you're
or-
driving. You're
Yeah,
driving.
the vehicle expenses, and if I have to pay ANA for the day that I'm there, to be reimbursed for that also.
And now that you sold the house, do you have a place to stay?
I have a friend. I have two
Great.
friends who have
Wonderful.
offered places.
Excellent.
I haven't stayed in the house since 2015. So
Okay. I still move. I second the motion.
All right. And any objections?
No,
thank you.
Okay.
And we'll, Martha, are you still on? Yeah, there she is. But you're muted, so we don't know whether you know yet whether you're going to be able to go to the ANA day.
Yeah, I signed up some time ago because it gets pretty expensive to sign up later on. So
Great.
I've been signed up a long time ago.
Excellent.
Yes.
And what is your situation as far as funds needed or not or whatever?
It was whatever. Never. It's just long since organized.
I think you have a different organization that's going to be supporting you, right?
Nope, it's just me. It's important to me.
Okay, I'm sorry. I do this sometimes. It's Pam Richard that's on the board now of ANA.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so all right, but you're happy. You've got the arrangements. You don't need any cash.
Or do you?
No, it's been all planned. Thank you. This is coming up like a couple weeks ahead of time. Yeah, just skip me.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Well, thank you.
And she's also telling us that, it's now 9:42. And so we have this thing that we put off from last time, which is a
Right.
discussion of suggestions that Margot has made about operating a little differently. Do we have the energy to hear Margot make her suggestions? Can you make them kind of in a plain, straightforward way without having to refer to me?
Yeah, okay, I can try.
That's what-
I can try, but I would be very open to the sense of the meeting as whether this is the best meeting to do it at. If you'd like
Okay.
me to go ahead, I can, but I'd be glad to wait too.
You'd be happy to.
I just read that,
Okay.
what you sent, and I had no idea that it was about this subject. So have other people read what Margot sent that has the geophysical month of the penguin and the NDEW? Do you know what it is and what is being suggested, or do we need to ask for another iteration of it?
If people haven't read it, if people would have a chance to read it before the next meeting, I'd be glad to wait to the next meeting. It
put
might
it
be
off.
more efficient if people
Right.
are already familiar with the proposal, because I think that email gives a fair summary.
Okay,
So, yes, Eileen.
I'll look for it. I'm sorry, I did not read everything that you sent. I just didn't have the time.
Right. I read it when you first sent it, Margot, or I read it when I came back from Antarctica. I can't remember. Anyway, it is a bit difficult to follow. She's essentially, have I represented it in the agenda correctly, that you are suggesting that we might operate our meetings in a slightly different way?
Yes, that's accurate.
Right. So, it's not it's not urgent at the moment.
No, it isn't. It isn't. I think it should be considered when it's convenient.
Okay, so I would like to suggest we take Margot's offer to put this off again, and it will. What I might try to do is put copy and paste it into a Word document and send that out to Disarm committee, rather than asking you all to go find her email. I think it would be easier if I just copy and pasted it into a Word document.
Oh,
Then-
thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I would support both those suggestions.
You know,
Or-
I am
yeah.
so curious. I'd love to just do a 2 sentences. What's the proposal in the heading?
Okay, well, I would say the essential 2 points were that we should just, and I think the first is just that we should strive to be especially hospitable to the higher levels of anti-nuclear resistance, as I think McGregor Eddy has spoken of the Vandenberg Air Force Base protests. And also I'm thinking of we've spoken of the Golden Rule, of course, during this meeting. And also, of course, there's the Nevada Desert Experience. And to make it clear that we are receptive to the whole full spectrum of anti-nuclear resistance. And I think the other proposal was just that we should seek to, with the exception of check-in, of course, we should generally seek to have business transacted efficiently and then have socializing, although the check-in, I think, is a very important form of socialization that occurs near the beginning, and that would be exception. But apart from that, we should strive to have business transacted efficiently so people with limited time can get through the business part of the meeting and then have the social part of the meeting after we've concluded that. That's a quick summary.
So the business first and social second, or last, I should say.
Right, with the exception of the check-in, because I think the check-in is a very important opportunity to hear how things are going for everyone, and that should be where it is. So that will not be affected by this.
So you have a sense that we do some social things that are not check-in.
At the end.
No.
Right.
I'm trying to understand when she says the social things should be put to the end, but not check-in.
Right, not checking.
What are
The
you
check-in is the exception.
Yeah,
think
well,
the
what are you
check-in is-
identifying as social that's aside from the check-in? Sometimes we chit-chat about other things.
I have the same question.
Right. That's I'd say generally it's a tendency. It's hard to define exactly. And I think that's a fair point, Joan. It's hard to define exactly what is a social item, but the chit chat, maybe we want to have more of the chit chat maybe happening after the formal business is strategy, with the exception of the check-in. That the check-in is an important exception to that.
Margot, I think that the chit chat that you're referring to is when it is at the very beginning when we're waiting for everybody to come in.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I think that's fine. That's fine, I think. But that
Well-
should not be changed. If we're starting on, because we start on time and we're starting on time, I think that that's fine. The chit chat before the meeting is wonderful.
But okay, but I would say, why are we doing that? Because I'm sitting here watching the people come in and trying to decide, as I've said before, have we a quorum, where a quorum is a very loose term, but and sufficient people who usually come have now come. And I must say today, some of you didn't come in till 10 minutes after, the time, and 15 minutes after the time. So I would plead for a more prompt arrival by everybody. That would get us going earlier, closer to the 4:30, 7:30 time, instead of, it was probably 10 to the hour before we really got going today. So can we, I would say that would be a way of dealing with some of Margot's concerns.
Very right.
That's a very fair point.
I've been guilty of arriving late, although I have to admit, this time I just find the link to get in. I contacted ET and
You see, you say this. I sent the agenda and the link.
I'll be very honest with you. I look for it and my stuff sometimes get lost in cyber. You don't believe me, but they do. I put your name in a second time and then it popped up.
Yeah, but it's not just my name. It's coming from disarm.committee.wilp.
I know, but in order to get it from Disarm, you're putting the message out. For some reason, my system doesn't work well. And anyway, I am guilty of being late in general. But I'm going to try to start to get in at 20 after and see what happens.
Good idea. That's what I was thinking. I didn't do that this time, but we can try.
Because Ellen does set it up, right? Ellen, what time do you really open up this link?
It's forever.
It's always there. It's always there. You could go at midnight and it'll tell you you're the only person in the meeting.
Right.
But it's there.
Done that. I've been a week late or a week early,
Right.
So
Yeah.
let us then rehearse the very last thing, which is to set the next meeting date. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember, we are the second Sunday and the last Sunday of every month. Okay. So the second Sunday in April is the 9th. It is Easter Sunday, and I don't know if that really makes a deal of difference.
By the afternoon, evening.
But no, hopefully you've all done your Easter egg hunts, you've eaten your chocolate bunny rabbits, etc. Okay, you've been to church.
And Gloria, while we're going into this Easter happenings, was there something that you wanted to say about this or the previous item?
Yes, well, I don't know if it's the previous item. I couldn't find a single email from Cheryl that had the login. And my question is it always the same?
The login is actually always the same, yes.
All right. So
the
what I
agenda-
always send, I
It's
can
always the
copy.
same, and she puts it at the top of the agenda.
Right.
It wasn't in some of that until I
The
got.
top and the bottom.
And
I
the bottom,
didn't-
I
It wasn't there. It wasn't at the top of the
Oh,
agenda.
Well,
Yes.
she replied to a reply to the agenda, and when she replied to the reply, it was hidden below, so
Yeah,
you probably missed it. I
missed
had to
it.
go down a couple of days ago in order to find it, to send it to
Right.
Eileen and to you.
right. So my reminder, I omitted after I'd sent the reminder at 3:30 my time-ish today. I realized I should have put the link again. I didn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I would also say that all right, so the last Sunday of the month is the second time we meet. April has 5 Sundays, all right? Occasionally a month has 5 Sundays. So that brings us to the 30th of April. So please just write it down somewhere or put it in your calendar. The 9th and the 30th, right? At the same Zoom login.
And then there's one other thing, Cheryl, that we
Yes.
didn't have on the agenda that I just want to remind people. We're looking for a third co-chair.
The third co-chair. So we put that in the last meeting, and we laid out that that there will be an election in August, and we laid out there are 6 rules. They're in the minutes that you all got. What are the rules that will govern this election? Okay, I mean, we could repeat that every time if you want, but I was hoping people had, taken that on board, and I didn't need to say that.
Well, it can be in the minutes for this meeting, and that'll be fine.
Okay. Yes, Martha. Yes, the 9th and the 30th of April. Martha's asking 9th and 30th. Right. April is a 5 Sunday month. Very rare. So January was a 5 Sunday month. April's a 5 Sunday month. July will be a 5 Sunday month. October is a 5 Sunday month. You see, I had this little thing from the Smithsonian with all the months, and it's very helpful to get an overview of the year. And I can see which are the 5 Sunday months, because it's the last Sunday of the month, right? The second and the last Sunday, not the 4th Sunday, the last Sunday. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So it's a subtle difference.
And less likely to have conflicts with other things happening.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so please try to, I try to avoid other things. I try not to commit, or if I have a lecture, a concert, they don't. I try to be done by 6 o'clock my time, so I can get to my concert. I did get to my concert in the city last time. I eased myself into my chair as they dimming the lights in Davies Hall. So anyway. Okay, I think we're done, Joan.
Okay, and is there anybody who had anything that you wanted to share? Hello, greetings, whatever. Hideko is still here. People who hadn't talked much during the meeting, perhaps, etc. Before we say goodnight.
I just want to say thank you to those who are writing up this statement. Appreciate it. I think the discussion was well worth it, and a lot of people offered some great ideas. Thank you.
And information, right?
Right. Okay. I'm going to have to add this to my long to-do list.
So Hideko, if you want to talk with us, you are muted. But you said you weren't feeling very well, so we hope you feel better soon.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to it?
I'm sorry, I ran to the bathroom. What did you want me to say?
we're closing the meeting, and since you had not spoken much during the meeting, and we hope that you're gonna feel better soon, we wanted to see if you wanted to say anything.
You know, I feel so guilty. I'm not actively participating in all the things that you were doing, but you know, believe me, from my heart, you have my total support for the energy you have. I don't know how you are coping with aging, but you know, I had some major accidents and my body is not really keeping up with me. And I'm very short-tempered with myself. So, you know, that doesn't help. I'm sorry to be, you know, saying anything not so helpful for all of you, but anyway, that's what I have been struggling. And I feel your warmth as well. And I really would like, if I can, be present in your presence and be sending energy. And I especially have tremendous support for the enormous hard work Cheryl is putting in. You know, I read the emails and then she puts this and she puts that. Honestly, that lady is totally different from the physicist that worked on killing humankind in ultimate way. You know, it's a very different kind of a physicist than I.
Good point.
You know, I'm so sorry I can't make myself, because I make myself sick still with talking indefinitely about, you know, my own experiences. But I'm willing to give my time and I'm willing to really support, because I think the voice of the people who went through and survived the bomb cannot be duplicated by any other kind of experience, you know? And the fact that we turned around and became a believer in peace. I mean, we were driven by the oligarchy of our military, and there was no way. If you stood up, made a difference. Those people got beaten to death and died. I know that. Anyway, and I was only a child. But that is a very, very difficult way to go as a country. And I'm very disappointed. I'm standing now against TEPCO dumping dirty water into Pacific. The government approved, you know, certain kind of a level. It just couldn't, because they were contributing to the electrical power resource. I'm sorry. Everybody eats stuff. You know, even little kids from small island, from Pacific Ocean. And I'm absolutely against it. And I will stand up and speak up that I am against it.
You understand, she's talking about the cooling water that's being stored in the tanks in Fukushima. They need to do something about it because they're running out.
And then government sort of like reluctantly is going along with it. I'm sorry, I don't have too much, you know, trust in the government that allows military to let us get killed and suffer so very hideously. You know, I was only a child, but I know I suffered even as a child, being hungry and separated from family. It was just awful experience. Before the bomb, okay?
Before.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, but I want to thank you, Cheryl. I want to help you out when you told me, you know, you wouldn't mind having some support from me sort of on a regular basis if you needed a survivor to speak to be your.
Yeah, and maybe in August, you know, August is when we commemorate the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, and Disarm sometimes does, you know, webinars and things in that time frame. And I think being able to say that you would be speaking for a few minutes on such a webinar would be good. But that's just a thought. We can, you know, look at that later.
Yes, there's a good thing about being prepared way ahead of time. And the other side is, it's coming, and it just makes me sick both ways. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
terribly sorry, but I'm an artist. I'm very sensitive, and I just been like this all my life.
Mhm.
I just couldn't become a regular commercial person who become a survivor speaker like they do at the museum, Peace Museum in Hiroshima. They're a regular person who comes and then talk about how hard it was to let his dad go as the building was burning, and the father saying, if you love me, you got to get away. Honestly, I couldn't have done that. I would have just died long time ago. And as it is, like tremendous nodules so everywhere, thyroid, it was the first one to go. But because that's what radiation does, Anyway, so
let me just say, Hideko, so what we didn't put in the agenda, but I know is, so the G7 is going to be meeting in Hiroshima.
yes, Kishida, he wants to make the best of his power base, and he shows that his registry, Japanese population record is from Hiroshima, but he was born and raised in Tokyo. He didn't have much to do with Hiroshima, but
This is your
he
prime
wants to
minister.
take advantage, of using whatever Hiroshima carries as a, PowerPoint. He's the prime minister, but I don't mean to be very, very, shallow, okay? But in Japan, passing entry examination to a college and to the top is the Tokyo University, and everybody, aims to go. My nephew went through the first time, and he didn't have to wait year after year to take it again. Don't tell anybody I told you this. The guy flunked twice. So, the sort of like this snobbish people is, oh, really? He didn't make it.
Yeah.
He had to wait and then not go to any other college, and then he tried again. And I don't think he passed it. And then he gave up and went some other school. I'm sorry. This is a terrible, trashy attitude to have, but it doesn't sound too smart.
But I know there are some organizations, some NGOs who are trying to have some other meetings that happen around the G7. I'm sorry, I'm a bit vague because I haven't read about this lately. So anyway, Ellen, do you remember when this G7 is? It's soon, isn't it?
Listen, Kishida is trying now to be prepared, being able to defend Japanese territory like Zelensky did because, of North Korean missile flying all over every day, and then Russia going into Ukraine, and seemingly he thinks he can even, threaten us with a casual nuclear threat. So he's getting very nervous about the charter for the peace, denouncing war. And then he's trying to make, little by little, some kind of a strengthening power to put in more words into the peace, constitution, and make it the defense force that we have, quote unquote, can turn into a fighting power.
Yeah.
Who knows? We got all kinds of, not just TEPCO trying to dirty water Pacific. We have a lot of nuclear power plant. And believe me, with a Japanese engineering experience, they can make a nuclear weapon in no time.
If they wanted, they could.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway.
They have the expertise. Mhm.
Yes, experience. There's so much emphasis on education and getting smart in that country's culture, so that there is a technical skill and competence to make nuclear weapon anytime. Anyway, so I'm very, very nervous. And I'm so sorry I'm not contributing that way. Although if there is a chance I go, like they invited me to LA, the NBC program, speaking about Oppenheimer. I think it's coming out in July. They are big programs. So
Mhm.
if they put what I said in some kind of a way that will discourage use of a nuclear weapon, I'll be so happy. But anyway, those are the only ways that I have done anything whatsoever. But right now I'm working on, shaming TIPCO for getting ready to support. This is small enough, we can dump it. No, dirty water is a dirty water. Anyhow.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Hideko. And if I need to go back in my emails, remind myself about this G7, which is, the really big powers. Biden is supposed to go, etc. It's all, the presidents of the G7 attend this particular meeting. And anyway, if I see any way we could use your offer, Hideko, around that, I'll let you know.
Okay. Well, you take care, and then you have my deepest respect. And I'm sorry I'm not available just, at the snap of the finger. But I'll be happy to, whenever I can, get
Right.
myself. Yeah. If I make a commitment, Cheryl, I always come through regardless of what.
Because Ellen can tape you talking in your house. We could arrange something. You don't have to fly anywhere.
Yay!
Yeah, right, Ellen? We've done that before.
All of you are welcome to come by my house. I have a very comfortable place and a beautiful Japanese rock garden and flowers all over, even with snowing outside in my backyard.
Well, what I meant was via Zoom.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
via
crocus.
Zoom, she can.
Oh, yeah, crocus of every color. White, light blue, purple, and primrose, and roses all over, although, it's not rose time.
Ooh, we want to come.
Right.
Oh,
Carol is
and
pointing
my
out we don't need to.
abstract paintings, yeah, because I'm an oil painter.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you for your comments there. We always learn from you, and
I'm constantly amazed, the energy all of you have, and then the passion you have, and then you believe in things, and that you shouldn't just be called an activist. You are believers.
Believers, right?
That's great. I like that.
Yeah. I don't like the word activist because it, make people think about people who just stand on somewhere and pompous and give directions to other people. Oh, you're not like that.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Well, thank you. All right. Well, I know my stomach tells me it's time for my dinner, and some of you are far away and need to go to bed. And some of us are here in California where it's still a bit light.
And
it's not
Oregon.
Yeah, on the east or west coast. So
Yeah.
thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
For-
Okay.
for-
Thank you.
Right,
Good few weeks.
Good
And you
night.
can stop the recording. Thank you, everybody. All right. Good
And
night.
of course, save the chat.
Save the chat now. Save the chat now.
Always.
Okay, because Ellen's going to cut us off any moment now.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. We'll be in touch.
The
Bye-bye.
recording has stopped.
Yeah,
Thank you.
the recording, but
I'll
not
be
the
in,
sound.
I'll be in touch, Gloria,